Should we bring Mitch in?
Yeah, let's have Mitch come in.
Let's bring Mitch into the
Did you chill out
hot
now?
box.
We wanted him to get his breath because I think Mitch jogged up here because he looks fit enough that he probably jogged up here. And even though we don't give away our location because for safety reasons, we're gonna say it's up on a hill someplace in Provo. So Mitch had to jog uphill to get here, right?
Yeah. I went to school going uphill both ways too.
Yeah, talk right into that microphone. So our guest here, and we bring him in a little bit earlier because I want to get his opinion on this college football report of the most hated college football programs. Our guest had 152 receptions, is that right, in your BYU career, 2,083 yards, 24 touchdowns, 6'6", nightmare to defend, delivered a dream finish in the north end zone in one of college football's most iconic football fields at Nebraska. Mitch Mathews is here. We know you'll have questions for him, so bring those in. But let's just jump right into this.
Let's dive.
College Football Report ranked the most hated college. By the way, thanks for being here.
Yeah.
It's good to
so
see
glad
you.
I'm here.
We're pumped to have you, brother.
Come on now.
The most hated college football programs, according to College Football Report. They put it out on their social media feed. And I thought it was interesting. And, of course, BYU made the list. But where they made the list might catch you by surprise. Nationally despised. This is the most hated, according to College Football Report. They're going with Michigan, Texas.
So you played at Michigan,
Played
right?
both there. Played
at
both those.
Texas,
Yeah,
right?
played
So
both.
there you
USC,
go. Didn't play there, right?
Ohio State, and Alabama. Do you agree with that? The nationally despised.
I can see why.
They win the most. They're ranked the most.
I just went, whoa, there's the 5 of the best programs in the history of college football.
Right,
No wonder, right?
right.
We always talk about tough teams. And in our family, I don't know if you guys do this because you have a bunch of athletes. We always go, who played against the toughest team when they played? And I'm like, well, I played Ohio State twice when they were nationally ranked, and we played Michigan. And and then Dallas, my son-in-law says, well, we played because he played in the Pac-12 at Stanford. And then Kellen always goes, I played against USC in the Coliseum when they had Matt Leinart, Reggie Bush, and we all go, oh, you won.
Yeah.
You won.
That's off the top.
Ends that conversation.
So nationally despised.
Which was tougher, playing at Michigan or Texas when you played?
Well, Michigan was a better team for sure. Playing at Texas was fun because we ran all over them.
Yeah.
Notre Dame should be on that list for sure. I think they should.
Oh, they're coming. They're coming on
here
the
we go.
next.
So
Okay.
nationally despised: Michigan, Texas, USC, Ohio State, and
there we
Alabama.
go.
Yeah.
Now let's go to very hated.
very hated.
Very hated's the next category.
Okay.
Notre Dame, Georgia, LSU, Clemson, Oklahoma, and Florida.
Bunch of winners, of course.
It's a who's who of college football.
It's
the
just
first
a bunch
two.
of winners.
No one hates the losers.
Yeah, hated. So they're not very hated. They're just hated. Texas A&M, Miami, Penn State, Tennessee, Florida State, Nebraska, Michigan State, and Auburn. You played at Tennessee, right? No. Nebraska, though. Played at Nebraska.
I don't know how
Nebraska
that's on the
there.
list, though, because their fans were the best I ever played.
I agree with that. Dave and I were there, and we agree with that.
They gave us, they waited till we left the locker room, which was hours after the game, and they gave us a standing ovation when we left the locker room.
Such
people,
good
man.
fans.
But people hate them because they win, right?
Yeah.
They haven't won lately, but remember when we were growing up, it was
Yeah.
Nebraska, Oklahoma.
70s and 80s, yeah.
Every time
yeah.
the Big 8 was on the line. And so now let's go to the not liked.
Yeah, we got BYU right on top of the not liked. Oregon, Washington, West Virginia, Central Florida, Pittsburgh, Iowa, North Carolina, Colorado, UCLA, and South Carolina.
Those are the not liked. Not hated, not despised.
They're just not liked.
Not very hated, just not liked.
Yeah.
And for BYU, their not liked part might have more to do with how people might feel about the church
A religious
around the
perspective,
country,
yeah.
how they might feel about, because although BYU's got a ton of wins, they don't have it's not like they've mowed through the P5s of the world historically. And so, like the Mountain West, they wouldn't like BYU. They always got beat by them,
Right.
and the WAC. But you get outside of why would BYU not be liked? Just probably some misunderstanding. Maybe the missionaries knocked on their door a couple times.
Yeah.
I've talked to a lot of opposing fans that have come in for games, and I know BYU's tried to pattern what they do at home after places like Nebraska and Notre Dame where they treat opposing fans so well. And I've only heard rave reviews other than from Utah fans.
Yeah, right.
I will, put that in a different category, but everybody else that comes in says, wow, that was just an amazing experience. Even Keaton Slovis, the quarterback now, said, my family had an unbelievable experience when they came here.
Yeah.
They talked about what a great environment it was. Is that a good thing to be a great home environment that treats visitors with respect?
I still think you can be quote unquote nasty during the game, but then you can have a ton of respect after the game, which I think is totally fine. I think this is what the players want. You don't want to leave your college career and have people hate you for the horror stories that left their families in, right?
Yeah.
I do think, though, that a lot of those BYU should be higher on that list of hated because we beat a lot of those teams that are
That's
up there.
right.
And so I see why we're hated for sure.
Now, there's the nationally liked part, too.
Yeah.
10 schools made that list.
I don't think you want to be on that list, by the way, if you're just always liked. You know what I mean?
TCU, Kansas, Iowa State of the Big 12. They're the three that got
Three
in
in the
there.
Big 12, yeah.
And if you're not on any of these lists, no one even cares you exist.
So is Utah,
Right.
was Utah on any list
No.
in that? No, they weren't even.
No,
They're not an afterthought.
Yeah, what, and Utah State not on anything?
No, you've got to earn your way. You got to
Right,
earn your
right.
way.
By the way,
Hated or
I
liked.
love that we're on that list. Like, if you're on that list, you're glad you're on that list.
Yes,
There's
of
just something
course.
about it. You're glad, right?
No. Now, Mitch, we asked Ty Detmer if he ever gets tired of talking about winning the Heisman Trophy, and we've asked Jim McMahon if he ever gets tired about talking about the pass to Clay Brown, the Miracle Bowl. Both said no. So when it comes to this catch against Nebraska to beat the Cornhuskers in 2015, does it get old? Has it gotten old?
No.
Not at all?
You might think it would because not a day goes by where I don't talk about it. But the stories that come of it are just hilarious, right? A kid came up to me probably no more than a week ago, and he says, my dad said that he's cried only 2 times in his life. One was when his mom passed away, and the other time was when you caught the Hail Mary against Nebraska. And so when you hear stories like that, you're just like, how can I not love talking about it? And I'm not joking. Not a day goes by where it doesn't come up.
What is it about these moments that that last forever, and what's it like to be a part of one?
I think it's the emotion attached to the moment, right? It's the most excited people had been in a long time, that they had shed tears for the first time in a long time. And then people just remember where they were when they heard the news or heard it on the radio or saw it, and there's a story attached to it. So when something reminds them of it, they just love to talk about the emotion behind it.
Yeah.
Well, Dave and I, which has been the case for a lot of big moments in BYU sports, of course, we were right there next to the pylon on the sideline because we had done a sideline show, pregame and postgame show for that game. So we're down there like, hey, it's going to be a Hail Mary. So let's just get right down here. And we were on the side that
Smart.
Yeah, we were on that right side. And you caught it. And we saw that you caught it. And Dave and I we didn't jump up and down because we immediately looked at each other and went, did he get the ball over the goal line?
It's close.
And
It's
Dave's
close.
like, did he get the ball over the goal line? I don't know if he got the ball over the goal line. Like we were more in a panic for a second, right?
So was I. I'm right there with you.
And then once they indicated it, then we jumped up and down
Yeah.
and showed our emotion. But so we were outside the players that were on the field defending you and your teammates. Dave and I were the two
I think
closest
there's pictures of you guys in it.
Yeah.
Where if you got that
They're-
angle,
we're
there's
the
you
two-
two
we're
in
the
it.
two
We
closest
should have seen
people that
next to
are-
Cosmo.
Yeah, we're right
You should
there.
have joined him in the dog pile. Cosmo was in there. You could have just, I mean, the referee was part of the
So-
celebration.
We
You guys
could've-
could have jumped in.
So we
could've
reminisce
jumped in there.
about those kinds of plays. So let's go back in time. Nebraska was leading 28-27 at the time, and you're on the 42-yard line. There's 1 second left on the clock. But we actually want to take you back a play before that. And I know Dave talked about this with you before. BYU actually tried to throw an out to you on the play before that, and you didn't get a foot down. If you get that foot down, how does that change everything?
Field goal.
Yeah.
Field goal. Because I think what we've been 35 yards away,
Right.
if I would have been in, that's still Hail Mary-esque. It's still in that zone of there's not a play to get you 35 yards down the field and open. It's still Hail Mary. And so those odds go down to less than 1%. But a field goal that's 50-plus yards still is in the 10 to 20% range, if not more, right? And so stats, I mean, Coach Mendenhall is not emotional, so he's going with stats alone, and we would have kicked a field goal for sure.
And was the play designed? It's like, hey, we're gonna hit Mitch with a quick out.
Yep.
If he catches it, we're gonna run out and
Yep.
kick a field goal. That
Yep.
was the plan, right?
100%. Yep.
And you caught it, but didn't get a foot down.
Yep.
And so now,
Thank goodness you didn't
thank
get a foot down.
goodness,
Gosh, with these
like,
big
that would have
15,
been
size 15 shoe.
that would have been
Right?
the worst successful play ever in BYU history.
Right?
Now that we have the hindsight to look at it, right?
Well, it almost was the most unsuccessful play ever when I caught the ball at the 1 yard line and almost didn't get in. I would not want to talk about that every single day.
Hey, but and see, we remember those kinds of plays too. We think about BYU undefeated back at Coastal Carolina, and ending up on the 1 yard line.
1 yard line.
Oh my
Right.
gosh.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's just gut wrenching. Like we talk about it right now, and we
killer.
all just go, "Oh my
Chills.
gosh!" Yeah,
Yeah.
It makes you feel terrible, right?
Yeah.
So we didn't want that to happen. So now it's not in. You're back in the huddle. You're on the 42-yard line. It's like, okay, Okay, now we have to throw the Hail Mary.
Yeah.
What was talked about in the huddle right before that?
Nothing. And it's a funny story because we practiced this play called Big Ben. And the signal was like a lumberjack chopping with an axe. That was the signal in case there was no time for timeouts. And we all knew that was coming up. Big Ben, it was our tallest receivers. I run to the middle of the end zone, Taryn to the front, Nick Kurtz to the back. We're all 6'5" and above. If it goes to the back of the end zone, Nick's supposed to tip it forward to me. If it's in the front of the end zone, Taryn's supposed to tip it back to me. And I run diagonal across the field. It's supposed to go to the middle. So Tanner, he's supposed to hit me in the middle. Maybe if it wasn't such a duck, it would have flown farther. But anyways, I'm running sideways. And I told Dave this. My mindset was, I have to have a little bit of redemption in that game. I didn't have a crazy great game that game. I think they put a lot of cover 2 on my side that game, and I wanted to have a big moment for myself. Obviously, it's something you dream about your whole life, but I remember being a little bit just angry and just I needed to change the trajectory of the game with Taysom, with our team. We needed something, and so it was my opportunity to make a play. But right before then, we walk over to the sideline, already knowing what the play call was, and Coach Nine, his voice just said, "Well, you boys know what to do." And he didn't even call the play. We already knew the play because we had practiced it every single week just in case of that moment. So I guess that's why you do it.
Yeah.
Well, it worked.
Yep.
But describe the journey. You line up to the left in the formation. Tanner gets the shotgun snap, rolls to the right, and waits for you to go 60 yards to the corner, right in front of the end zone on the right side. What walk us through that journey?
Yeah. So I guess that's supposed to be a little bit of a loophole in the defense is me coming diagonal across as no one's really paying attention to me. If you watch the DB that was guarding me, he just sort of trotting behind me and letting me get by myself. I remember running down like, this is the moment where DBs are supposed to be just hanging on me because
right.
There's not going to be a flag ever. And so they didn't. I was kind of jogging by myself, and as I saw the ball flying, obviously it wasn't to anyone in specific, it was just to a place. And I knew that no one was really on me. I said, if I just run a little bit faster and make my body as big as I can, even, with my elbows and with my legs. If you see the picture, you see my legs spread, as flexible as possible to keep these guys behind me. And I remember jumping up, and throughout my whole career, never caught the ball in my body, but I knew in this moment I had to, because as I jumped up, I could feel the pressure of 2 DBs on my back. One of them was really, really good. Nathan Gary was an NFL free safety linebacker. He was on my left side, other DB was on my right side, and I could feel them. And if you watch the slow-mo of the play, I am getting I'm a noodle out there getting rocked by these guys. Ball gets closer. I knew I had to catch it on my body because someone was going to hit the ball away if I caught it with my hands. So I had to catch it on my body. I forget which arm it was in. Let's just say my left arm. Because it had landed right there already, I knew that when my feet hit the ground, I had to spin that direction because I knew my feet were still outside the goal line.
Yeah.
When they hit down, your peripherals, everything that's going on. When my feet were hitting down outside the goal line, I knew that I had to spin the direction of where the ball was in my arm, which was the left side, turned to the left, and fell in. I knew for a fact it was a catch because my knees being down or the ball hitting the ground was not a factor. So I knew when I turned and I looked down, I could see the goal line in between my legs, and I peeked down, the ball's in my left arm, and that's when I factually knew that the thing was a catch, and it had to be real in that moment. And I think a lot of the fans said maybe, is it real? Did it actually happen like you guys had? But I knew it had to happen because just where the ball was.
It's in moments like that. So for Dave and I, and we've talked about it a lot, to us, it felt like when Tanner released the ball, everything went in slow motion and it got silent.
100%.
And so when you're out on the field, did it feel that same way? Did the ball feel like it was up there forever and multiple thoughts going through your mind about what has to be done? And so and I don't know, maybe the ball's in the air for 3.5 seconds. Did it feel like it was a lot longer?
Dead silent for sure. Because they have a lot more. I think. They're just waiting on pins and needles just for that ball to hit the ground so they can just go home. That's all they want. So it's just dead silence. The 3.5 second wait for them. But to us players, it meant everything. That's the moment we've been waiting for our whole entire life. And so the silence helped. But for me, it was just an opportunity to do something that I've dreamed of my whole entire life. And luckily for me, you watch the Hail Marys that have happened in the past at BYU, those they might not think, those people, that they really made an impact, but they did, because the fact that those had happened in the past at BYU, it paves the way for guys like me to go back and do the same. Because Hail Marys are such a low chance, but when you see that other guys had done it before, other people in college football had done it, other guys in the NFL, they're doing those big plays, why not me? And I remember thinking very clearly in that moment. I had time to think. There was a timeout. I had time to talk. I had time to think through it and had time to really digest and say, this could be my moment. Let's see how it goes.
Right.
And BYU, the guys that had done it before, I think it was, what year was that, the last Hail Mary?
Well, Clay Brown's was in 80.
Yeah, 1980.
And it seemed like we may have had a couple, but with very few game-ender Hail Marys.
Yeah,
in
the
school
last
history.
play of the game was like, remember, Mitch had one, Juergens had one.
The next game.
Yeah, but it wasn't the end of the game.
Yeah.
So
an actual last
play.
the
Yeah,
actual Hail Mary last
Yeah.
play of the game moment, there's not that many
Not
in
many.
BYU history.
But luckily there were some, because those are things we see the highlights all the time as players. You guys talked about them. You guys had told us all about these, the history of BYU. And so when those moments arise, it's for guys like me, it's a chance to go duplicate it because it had been done before. So I'm grateful for
Did
BYU
you
history.
come out, like when we talk to people about big plays, like I was even talking to Jackson Emery one time, and they're playing in a game, and there was a moment where Dave Rose said to him, "You have to go make a play. Like right now, we have to have a play." And he's a defender. He's like, "Okay." So he goes out and he goes, "I got to go make a play." And he goes and makes a steal.
Yeah.
And gets a steal, and they get the ball and they get a run out, and they win the game. And everybody I've talked to, talks about that moment when they go, "Oh, I have to go make a play right now. This is I've got to do this." Did you feel that way? Because you knew you were the primary receiver on that.
Yeah.
Did you feel like I have got to go make a play right now?
100%. Yeah, and it's exciting too. I remember feeling abnormally calm and excited for that moment. I remember feeling like this is a chance for me to go and do what I've dreamed of. How many people get that shot? I felt like the luckiest guy alive to even have that opportunity, and the luck was obviously involved. Don't get me wrong, but when those opportunities present themselves, it's my chance to go capitalize. If I've been thinking about a play like that my whole life, might as well go do something about it.
Former BYU receiver Mitch Mathews on the Wise Guys, live on YouTube, Facebook, Twitch, and wiseguys.com. And we appreciate everybody on our stream tonight. Let us know where you're streaming from and send your comments and questions. We'll get to some here in just a moment for Mitch. Describe that feeling in that moment as you're laying in the end zone and now you have a touchdown. Are you most happy for yourself, for Tanner Mangum, Taysom Hill, who left the game with a season-ending injury after throwing a touchdown to you earlier?
Yeah.
Bronco Mendenhall, Cougar Nation, the sliver of fans that somehow got tickets
Which
that were in there going nuts.
There, right there.
Who was
it?
it?
Oh my gosh, I think I've met every single person in that section, by the way, because they find a way to at least contact me, and we've talked. There was so much emotion in that game because at the first half, we didn't know how bad Taysom's injury was. We thought maybe it was a quarter thing, but I think somewhere in the fourth quarter, I think it was Dr. Kimball had come back and had made it official to us.
Yeah.
Like it's over for him for the whole season. And I remember it being so horrible, and you have to play through. And at that moment too, we heard the news, but we went from beating or winning to now losing somehow. So the emotions are very, very high. You got this new freshman quarterback in who everyone loved and everyone believed in, but that's such a big change. You go the last 8 months prepping with Taysom. We're super close to who's this new guy, Tanner Mangum, and so it was all over the place. And we're still playing a game, right? So for me, it was for the team first for sure. It was for the guys because everyone was going through a lot emotionally at that time. If you saw my embrace with Taysom after the game, it was just highly emotional because we truly loved each other. Yeah. And luckily, there was so many factors there, and there were so many people that this moment meant a lot to. There was only 3 people that could catch that ball, right? Me, Nick, or Taryn Houck. And so it was up to us 3 to go make a play for all of Cougar Nation, for all the team, and to make that bitter moment for Taysom just a little bit sweeter.
And it's interesting to me. People forget about what happened previous to that because you just block all that out and just focus on that big play. But I remember you and I having a conversation on the sideline, and coming into that season, Dave was saying to me, you played that position. What do you want to see from Taysom? And I just said, I want him to arrive now mentally where he just is so in command of the offense that the ball's coming out quick on time and in the right spots. Because physically, he's so crazy gifted. He can run all over the place. He got this big arm. I just want to see that. And you remember, before he got hurt, I was going, this is going to be a
good.
dude this year. Like
he looked good.
He is doing everything I hoped he would do. Like, this dude is going to be crazy good this year.
Good.
And then he went down. And I remember thinking, oh, no. Yeah. All of this work to progress to the level that he had, and this could be a special season. And nothing against Tanner Mangum, but he's a freshman. Yeah. Right? And all of that is forgotten because we make the big play at the end. The play at the end of the game.
Looked good.
He looked good in that game, didn't he?
A lot of the receivers. I mean, Nick Kurtz had 126 yards that game, I think.
Yeah.
I mean, the ball was spread all over.
He was throwing BBs all over the yard, making quick decisions, running away from people. Like,
we would have beat them.
He looked like that. We would have beat the crap out of him.
Very handily. Yeah.
So
Bullseye writes in, sometimes magic happens. We've heard that from Austin Colley back in the day. We've seen it in the alumni game. Sometimes magic happens. But so you're laying in the end zone, and your roommate Nick Kurtz jumps on you and is shouting, "You guys are legends." Taryn Houck, not sure what to do. He's in the area. He turns to the field judge who's signaling touchdown, and he goes and gives him a bear hug.
So good.
All this stuff going on.
Cosmo's in there somehow. I mean, it was just so. It was so good. The Taryn Houck hug was so good. I don't know why BYU players hug like the second time in the last 8 years. I don't know how that happens.
You just look for a friend.
It just I don't know what it is. If Taryn was actually thinking that guy wanted to hug, I have no idea. But emotions were high, and so it just made that moment hilariously great. And the dog pile lasted. I mean, I told Dave this. If I would have died in that moment, fine.
Okay.
That's totally
that's the way to go out.
That's a good way.
The way to go out for sure. But to relive the story is even better. So it was a magical moment, and we deserved to win that game by how we were playing that first half of the game. And so to finish that way for everybody, Cougar Nation, my teammates, it was for everyone to have a piece in BYU history, especially my teammates.
And we talked about the fact that hasn't happened very often. They've had some big plays that happened maybe 2 or 3 plays before the end of the game, or a series before the end of the game. But this is the last play of the game. So now, all that celebration on the field, you now immediately get to go into the locker room.
Yeah.
So, but there's got to be 2 feelings in that locker room. There's, crap, Taysom's out for the season, so there's that. But there's, hey, we just had a Hail Mary win this game. What was that locker room like, and was it a little bit of bitter and sweet?
Yeah. I was on the field for a while after with Tanner doing interviews, whatever, and I came in the locker room. And I remember the second I got in the locker room after hugging my family, it was all tears because I was just where's Taysom? Someone grabbed me and brought me directly to him, and he had stood up, and him and I just embraced for a while because, like I said, it was months and years. He kept having the injuries where we had prepped all off season for just an unfortunate injury, and so especially our senior year together, the first game. The contrast of the highest of high to what was in that moment the lowest of low for us was just such a wide range, and the tears were flowing. But it was, if you look at the film of the locker room, I think Coach Mendenhall is getting tossed in the air by the team. Everyone's going crazy. I actually missed that part, but then there's some somber moments as well, and then. So you just felt every emotion along the range of super excited to super sad. But how can you not celebrate a moment like that? But how can you not embrace your teammate who's your actual brother in those times and try to buoy him up?
Isn't that why we love sports? Because it's a blend of real life and fantasy with real people.
Yeah.
And there's the, ABC nailed it. There's the thrill of victory and the agony of defeat. All mixed in and sometimes within seconds of each other.
Yeah.
And that drives us to participate in it and to watch it.
Yeah. And for me, that was probably the most bittersweet moment in my definitely in my sports career for sure. And so you had to feel those emotions. You couldn't skip one. You had to enjoy it at the same time, mourn with your brother.
Mitch Mathews is our guest tonight on the Wise Guys. Played at BYU 2009. And then 12 through 15 following your LDS mission to Orlando, Florida.
Yeah.
Great place to go serve.
Fantastic.
Let's go back in time.
Yeah, we started with the biggest moment, obviously, because that's just so fun. I'm so glad we got to relive it. So let's talk about some other moments and go back in history. October 4th, 2013. This is your first collegiate touchdown catch. You actually caught 3 in that game against Utah State, finishing with 5 receptions, 112 yards, 3 touchdowns. How was that for making a first impression?
Yeah, I'll never forget that day for sure. At this time, I'm trying to make a name for myself. I started, multiple games my sophomore year. But I was playing behind an All-American in Cody Hoffman. I was in my same position. So when he needed a drink of water, it was my time to go shine.
We just had Cody on a couple of weeks ago.
Did you really?
So Cody set to the school record in touchdown receptions, but you go in and you steal 3 of his touchdowns in one game.
Right? And so it was a great way to put me on the coach's radar as a guy who's a future starter, and maybe even that year. To come out like that, and I really solidified myself in the coach's eyes as a playmaker and a guy that was a deep threat. And it was for me, injury the year before, injury a little bit after this was tough, but it was a great way for me to jump on the scene for from scouts to teammates to coaches to fans.
October 18th, 2014. 16 receptions for 182 yards and 2 touchdowns in a 42-35 defeat to Colin Kaepernick in Nevada. It was a wild game in Provo. The 16 catches are number 2 at BYU for most in a game. Jay Miller's got the school record with 22 against New Mexico back in 1973. But 16, that's a sweet 16.
He caught a bunch of slants. Jay recruited me. He was the offensive coordinator.
Really?
Back at Brown University in the Ivy League when I was growing up in New York. And
22.
He called me and goes, this is Jay Miller. I'm like, the Jay Miller from BYU that caught 22 balls?
Gary Shaddy.
He's like, yeah, because I knew. And he's like, that's me.
Gary Shaddy threw it to him every single time.
Yeah, they threw a bunch of slants.
Really?
Yeah.
But
he was
16.
He was an acrobatic, crazy, good, talented receiver.
Really?
But when he got up around 17, they threw him a few slants
just to get him over the hump, which is fun. I actually had, and I'm going to say I had. I'll go to my grave saying I had 17 catches that game. I remember sprinting up to Coach Mendenhall to throw the red flag for me because I knew for a fact I was in. This time, my size 15 shoe did drag in, but the refs called me out.
They called you out.
So it should have been 17 if you guys go back and watch it.
So why didn't Bronco throw the flag? What did he say?
We were on the hurry up offense, so there's not enough time. He's just get back out there, and I'm like, oh my gosh, I promise. And it was a good 20-something yarder too, so it would have put me over at the 200 range in 17
just a
catches.
Phenomenal. Like what was it about the matchups in that one? Were you did you just outsize these guys? Did they not have the quickness to stay with you? Was it the scheme they were playing? But you just seemed to be making plays all game long in that game.
A couple things. I mean, Christian Stewart knew how to throw me the rock for sure.
Christian had a great arm.
Great arm, and he loved to throw me the rock. So I saw him, Christian, like a week ago for the first time, and man, it just brought back so many memories. At certain times of the game, let's say I think we were down for in the fourth quarter, and when you run that hurry-up offense, the DB sort of sag back a little bit and give you a lot of the freedom to have these dink-and-dunk plays. And so I did rack up a couple catches from that, but I just think – look, I don't know how we lost that game. That was so embarrassing to be. Probably the most embarrassing loss of my career, besides Michigan. But it was for a different reason. This is Nevada, and sorry, but that was to us. It was just like
and they
embarrassing.
were decent. They were good, but still.
And Colin was a beast. Like I remember before the game,
but he wasn't there. He was there before. He wasn't there that game.
Oh, he wasn't there.
That wasn't his game.
No, that was 2010.
Oh, that's right. Because 2010, I went down. We did the 2010 game, and I went down the field like I do before the games. And I came back up, and Dave goes, What about that Kaepernick kid? I'm like, he's humongous. He's a freak.
That's my bad. So I don't know who the quarterback was.
Who was the quarterback?
Kaepernick.
But that makes it even worse, by the way.
No, it
does make it worse.
It was probably my least favorite loss because, it was. We're restructuring our offense. Taysom had just recently gotten injured, and to lose at home to Nevada, which was not not a pretty one.
And
we
even
did not
if
like that one.
Even if that catch had counted, got you 17, you'd still be number 2.
I know.
So you
right.
didn't hurt.
6 more. I know.
6 slants.
Shout out. I just heard a couple bowl routes. They put me in the slot.
Shout out to Tammy joining us from New York tonight. Thanks, Tammy.
All right. Hey, Tammy Van Houten is my cousin.
That's your cousin from New York?
Yeah, wow. she's up in upstate.
Is she like your cousin, or is it a Vi Sikahema cousin?
Well, you tell me.
Everyone's
no.
cousin.
You tell me it was my cousin. Her husband, his mom is my dad's baby sister.
Okay.
Her husband is my first cousin.
Yeah.
So this is not like Kalani's related to everybody and Vi's related to everybody.
Tammy, thanks for joining the show.
Tammy is actually my first cousin.
All right.
And by the way, they live in a home on Cayuga Lake, just outside of Penn Yan. I'll show you guys pictures. Like, it might be the most beautiful place in the world. They live in the Finger Lakes region in an old National Historic Home that is so beautiful. It's making me want to go there right now. Anyhow, hey, way to be on, Tammy. I appreciate you being on. So let's go. Terrible loss. Now let's go to November 28th, 2015, because not a loss. This is 6 receptions, 158 yards, 2 touchdowns, including a career-long 72-yard score.
Yeah.
That's the 51-28 win against Utah State. That's the way to...
That was a beatdown.
Yeah, that was a beatdown.
That was a beatdown. I still hear about if I meet any Aggie, I'm not liked there for sure. I'm on their
Your whole family is causing problems.
That list. Yeah, right, exactly. I'm on their absolutely despised list. Me and my brother, top 1 and 2.
Walk us through the 72-yarder. At what point are you just running for your life?
First of all, I want to say this. You just brought back a memory. When I came back after catching that, Coach and I grabs me and says, "What was that?" I said, "What do you mean?" He goes, "You almost dropped it."
On the 72-yard touchdown?
That was it.
That's all he said.
It wasn't congrats. It wasn't a bust lap. It was, "What was that? You almost dropped it."
Come on.
Anyways,
Robert.
that was I guess his way of showing love. I think it was a 3 deep routes, 1 crosser, and me up the sideline, and Tanner threw it a little bit behind me, which actually helped, so it spin away from the DB. But cold games I did well in. I thrived in those games. I don't know if it's because I grew up in Oregon and it was colder there, and wet games. I don't know. But
so you caught it? The defender fell down and you jogged the rest of the way?
No, I was just speed lightning out there. You know what I mean?
These guys.
I was like a
it was like running a
out
speed
there.
ladder. It's interesting you mentioned it was a little bit behind, so it spun you away from the receiver. In today's football, we see so many what we call, and I think people understand it now, back shoulder throws.
Yeah.
And they did a little bit but not as much. Like now, it just seems like, hey, if the DB's on top, throw it back shoulder.
Yeah.
If the DB's trailing, throw it over the top. Was that as big a deal when you were playing, where quarterback just looks at the coverage and nonverbal communication? He's just going to throw
signals for it. We had signals for it.
Throw that back shoulder.
We had
Did you guys
100%. Let's say it's 3rd and 8, right? And so it need to be like a long back shoulder throw, which is a little more high risk.
What's the signal?
It was just a dart.
Put your hand up?
No, it was a little hip thing. I think it was something like this, like Christian Stewart and Taysom did, but it was a little hip thing where I would run 5 or 6 steps and just peek back, and the ball was already in the air, and I just spin away and catch it. It was such an easy play.
Yeah, it's undefendable, right?
Yeah. UConn.
Is that a word? Is undefendable a word?
It is tonight.
Okay.
It works perfect, yeah.
Okay.
I mean, it's always undefendable, right?
Yeah.
If a receiver and a quarterback can get the chemistry of back shoulder fades, it's impossible to defend.
Yeah, it really is.
Very
Unless they have
frustrating
underneath
for a
coverage.
DB.
When Mitch said earlier, I always try to explain to everybody, you said, in that game, they were playing a lot. Again, in the Nebraska game, they were playing a lot of 2 deep coverage on my side of the field, meaning that there's an underneath defender that doesn't have any deep responsibility, so he can sit on everything underneath, and he's got help from a safety over the top. So if you get by that guy and you go to the top, there's additional help on top, and it makes it tough as a wide receiver against that type of defense. In the Nebraska game, they did that. Obviously, they did not do that to him in the Nevada game.
No.
Yeah,
or in the Utah State game.
It was free reign. Yeah, I don't know what they were doing. If a team was playing man, it was, the teams that beat us my senior year, if you look back, all played cover 2 the whole game.
Yeah.
Scraggs at 99 in from Billings, Montana. I was in that small sliver of Cougar fans in Lincoln that day.
All right.
Baby.
Good to have you with us.
That's awesome stuff.
So big plays run in your family on September 30th, 2011. I believe you're on your mission. Your brother Marcus catches a deflected ball in the end zone with 11 seconds left to beat Utah State 27-24. What is it about the Mathews brothers and Utah State?
I don't know what it is. I think what it's from, though, is all of my family, my mom's side of the family, all of them are Utah State fans.
Really?
They're all from that west side of Wyoming, so they all went to Utah State. So all the family reunion pictures are all Utah State and then our little sliver of BYU. And so there's something there about revenge. I don't know what it is.
You guys got up for those games. You were ready for those games.
We were ready. We didn't sleep, man. We were ready to go. So the ball just seemed to go our direction and get tipped the right way, I guess.
So you're on your mission. How does Marcus let you know that he was the hero?
I think I got woken up by every member in the ward texting me, because they're the only ones that have my number. Them texting me, pictures, and there's like 30 text messages because it was a late night game.
Yeah.
And it's East Coast time that I'm on, so I'm asleep. So I didn't find out the next morning, but sure enough, it was a highlight of my mission. Find that out. It was amazing. Those emails I get back from him, he's diving into the game plans. He's diving into all that. He knew I'd geek out over that. But to hear that, though, was just huge. It was awesome.
It was fun to call, and it was such an improbable. It was Riley Nelson's coming out party of I'm the quarterback now.
Yeah.
And that last second drive and then the tip. And the Aggies had that game won 5 different ways.
Yeah.
And BYU left with a students crushing the field.
Yeah.
And then Dave said to me, was he the intended receiver? I'm like, I don't know.
I don't know. I think it was JJ DeLuigi.
I don't know.
It came a little hot for DeLuigi.
But it doesn't matter. No. It's like in the Holiday Bowl in 1984, Glenn Kozlowski and I are still convinced that Robbie was throwing the ball away on a touchdown. Like he was rolling on guys hanging on him. He went to throw the ball away and he just couldn't get enough on it because the guy's hanging on him. And Glenn elevates to like 11 feet and comes down with it like Plastic Man. He's out of the back of the end zone. He gets a foot down.
Insane.
And then he comes over and Glenn says, "Were you throwing that away?" And I'm right next to him. I'm like, he obviously was throwing it away. And Robbie's like, I wasn't throwing it away. I was throwing it to you. And Glenn goes, you were throwing it away.
It's even better if he's throwing it away, though.
You were throwing it away.
He sat in that chair right where you were a few months ago. Said, of course I threw it right to Kozlowski.
Robbie's like, I threw it to him. And, of course, we talked to Glenn. And Glenn goes, no, he was throwing it away.
He's the only one to say that, the quarterback,
so,
of course.
Mitch Mathews on the Wise Guys tonight after BYU made some free agent stops with the Chiefs, Browns, Vikings, and Dolphins. What was your NFL experience like for a guy who is 6'6", can catch, can run, but for whatever reason the NFL wasn't there? Is it timing? Is it hey, there's a bunch of receivers here? Why doesn't it work out for some where others are in their like 15th year?
Yeah, it's a very good question, and totally happy to talk about it. It's hard to connect the dots, as I think it is for a lot of people that go there. It was a lot of mistakes on my part, flat out. When I was undrafted, it's draft day. I'm getting calls from a bunch of head coaches, Mike McCarthy's on the Packers and Andy Reid, and they're all like, hey, if we don't take you in the 5th round, we want you to come play for us. 6th round comes by, they call again. Hey, if we don't take you right now, come play for us. And I don't know if that was a recruiting technique or whatever it was, but sure enough, I didn't get drafted. I was super upset about it, and I had the option. The best two options were the Chiefs and the Packers. And when Andy Reid calls and says, look, pretty much wink, wink behind the phone, you're going to come be a Chief, and that's end of story. You're kind of like, yes, sir, let's go do it. But that was the biggest mistake in my life right there, really? which was, that year I show up, there's 15 receivers, and I show up and I drop my bags off in my room, and my roommate is Tyreek Hill, who's the best player, who's one of the best players in the last receiver and playmaking players.
Just get him the ball on the screen and let him go.
So that was my situation with 15 receivers, and I look at the roster for the Packers, and that year they had 3 active receivers who were undrafted and 2 on the practice squad who were undrafted. It was just a massive mistake, but you don't know. You genuinely don't know.
Isn't it an agent's part of the responsibility to get with you and go, Mitch, I know Andy's your guy, and like we all trust him, but they've got 15 receivers, and you know who has 2? The Lions. Let me talk to the Lions for you.
Yeah.
If you've got a great agent and you're a free agent, isn't it? I feel like it's more important to have a great agent when you're a free agent than when you're the number 2 pick.
Yeah, it's 100% true. But that's why I fired him after my first year.
Yeah.
I mean, he's a fine guy, but I just think things needed to change. But that was mistake number 1. But I'm stuck there. You can't just pick and you can't transfer.
Once you sign, you're signed.
And my mindset was I'm still going to make this happen. But Tyreek Hill became a starter as a 6th round pick with the 3rd day. That's never happened before.
Right.
They were so blown away by him and enamored by him that I wasn't even there.
Yeah.
I would get 2 plays of practice. I had the chance to make plays in practice when I did, and I felt like they did okay. But they had who they had, and they were set. And Trayvon Boykin, and Rob Gronkowski's little brother were the 3 highest paid undrafted players that year. And that's the biggest reason why. When the Chiefs paid me what they did in a signing bonus, that's when my agent was like, oh, they want you so bad.
Mm-hmm. Right.
And I think when I got there, they had 0 injuries at receiver. They were overloaded, and they had some of the best guys, which was Tyreek Hill and Demarcus Robinson, who played on the Chiefs for 6 straight years on the same roster, which is nuts. And I came in with those 2 guys. So bad luck, bad decision, whatever you want to call it, should have gone to the Packers. I go to the Browns. I get signed by them pretty shortly after. I was there a month, and I hurt my hamstring. And was trying to battle through it and didn't really tell anybody, didn't make it official that I was sort of hurt.
Because you get worried, I can't be hurt.
You definitely don't want to be that guy.
I'm right on the verge. I can't be hurt.
Yeah, exactly. Right? And I think they noticed that, and they released me before I made it official. But that's mistake number 2.
Yeah.
I need to go and say I'm actually hurt, and they got to pay me while I'm hurt, right?
Right.
And I didn't do that. So I get released by them, and now I have to rehab throughout the end of the season. There's a vet combine down in Arizona. I went down there and I tested super well. I ran a 4.47 laser time 40, had a massive vertical, always did, tested really, really well. And the calls started coming back in a ton. The Browns called back. And this is when I knew they had cut me before because of my injury. They're like, hey, is Mitch healthy? How's he doing?
Right.
But I knew that's when I knew that they knew that I was sort of
not
laboring
right.
something, but they wanted me back. But the Browns like, hey, we want to have him come back out and re-sign him. And next call comes in probably this, within the week, and it's the Minnesota Vikings. And they're like, hey, we want to sign him right away. In my young, naive mind, and this is where my agent, I wish he would have stepped in. I said, okay, let's do this. Let's fly to Minnesota. If they don't sign me for whatever reason, they're my stopping flight to get to Cleveland. So I had a flight from Minnesota to Cleveland to back home, just in case, one of them didn't happen.
Sure.
And went to Minnesota, signed right away, and was with them for a few months in the off season. But that was mistake number 3. If a team wants you back, you go back because they've seen you in pads. They saw me on the practice squad go up against Joe Hayden every single day and make plays. Yeah. Jimmy Haslam's the owner. He's at every single practice. Their GM's at every single practice. If those guys call and want you back, that means they like what they saw when you were in pads.
If they released you, but they know you and they want you back, that speaks volumes.
That means they really, really want you.
Because why we've already evaluated this guy. He can't play. Why would we sign him? No, we want him.
But my mindset was, screw those guys. I'm going to Minnesota because those guys tell me.
Oh, man.
But that's why I need a little bit more guidance. But you really don't know that. At the time, I'm like, I have so many options. Teams are calling,
Right.
And then was there in Minnesota, and I'm in the general GM's office, and after about 2 months there, he's like, I have you as our fifth receiver right now, that's great news. Mm-hmm. There's 6 receivers on the roster. He's like, I got you number 5 right now. But here's the issue. All my receivers right now, if I release them, they're going to get signed the next day. He goes, I have to run a risk on you. We've had some injuries. I'm going to release you because I think that I can get you back next week. And I will. So I have to let you go. And I'm going to call you back next week because I think you're a 5th or 6th guy. But I want all my receivers to battle out this camp. But I think you're in my 5th spot out of 6 guys, which is great news.
Right.
Of course, they released me. I got picked up by the Dolphins within the week.
Immediately.
I go to the Dolphins.
And the Dolphins could just get you, right?
Right away, yeah. Right away. So I worked out for them like a couple of days after, and had a great time there. Caught a touchdown in preseason. And then had a heel ankle injury that I was out for like 12 weeks right at the end of camp. And that's when I knew it was just time for the next chapter.
That's a fascinating journey.
But it's interesting because your story, Mitch, is not that uncommon, right?
Yeah.
Especially if you're navigating free agent, the free agent rounds and trying to, because you're young, if you don't have a phenomenal agent that's really knowledgeable, but it's hard to get a phenomenal agent that's really knowledgeable because they want the easy gig.
Yeah.
They want Zach Wilson. Zach's easy. He's the number,
right.
I already know what he's going to make. It's prescribed by the collective bargaining agreement, right?
Yeah.
So you're caught because you're not going to get the best representation. You have to, it's a tough situation, and a lot of it is timing. I look at Danny Sorensen, phenomenal player, right?
Yeah.
And Danny's with the Chiefs, but Danny stayed relatively healthy, and other guys got hurt, right? And so then all of a sudden he's got a chance to get in there, and when he had a chance to get in there, he just made plays. Yeah. Every time he had a chance, he made plays. So pretty soon it's like, this guy's just making plays.
Yeah.
And we keep getting these other guys hurt, and this guy stays healthy. We got to elevate him off the practice squad, and we got to play him. And
the key is getting on the practice squad and being with them for an entire year injury free. Because what you have a chance to do, I remember when I was in the Browns that month I was there before I hurt my hamstring. I was playing some of the best football my entire life because I'm going up against a first-team All-Pro, Pro Bowler, Joe Hayden, every single day in practice, catching touchdowns, enough for them to want to call me back. And so if you have 16 weeks to do that, that's when you come back the next year. You're either on the practice squad again or you're activated.
Right.
And so it's that stability.
And then sometimes guys have to get hurt. Sometimes a Tyreek Hill has to get hurt, and it's like, well, you're a 5th. Well, now he's in the rotation. And then you go out and make plays, and then they have to keep you because now other people have seen you in games. It's like, we've got to keep him because somebody else will sign him tomorrow on an active roster, so we've got to keep him. So a lot of it is there's a lot of really talented guys that don't make it, which is crazy because it really is, unless you're in the first 3 rounds, it's a grind. It's a numbers game. It's being lucky. It's having guys get hurt. It really is, isn't it?
Yeah. And you need someone of power, a general manager or head coach to say, that guy is staying by my side for the next 3 years. Yeah. I like him, and he's
like
with
the
me,
Saints did with Taysom.
Exactly.
Right. Once they got him, they said, you're my guy.
And you know what? Had Taysom had the kind of injuries he had year after year at BYU,
It is different.
When he got there, he finally stayed healthy long enough to play.
Yep.
And then he made big time plays. You're like, this guy's a freak.
Yeah.
Like now, so then he could get hurt and they still want him back because he actually had a chance. But he stayed healthy until he proved himself, which really helped.
Hey, shout out to Tim from Harriman. And then Dr. Ketch has a question. Can you ask Mitch how he stayed sane in his personal and spiritual life as he was being bounced around so much in the game of pro football?
That is a great question. I don't know if I've been asked that. To play at that level, you have to stay at peak confidence all the time. And I was trained to be that way in college. When you're, I'll say, the featured receiver, you're the guy, the go-to guy for 2 straight years. You have to learn to play and be at peak through injury, through ups and downs, through losses all the time. And so my confidence was sky high coming out of college. Even though I was undrafted, for me it was like they just didn't want me because I was a tad bit older. They didn't want me because of whatever. I'm still that guy, you know? And so that's what I was trained to do and believe. And so personally, you're trained to never get down on yourself and never talk down to yourself. And so to me, when I got cut, it was like, forget those guys. I'm going to the next team. Who wants me? I'd go work out for them, and 9 times out of 10, they'd sign me. Seriously, I'd go work out for a team, and they'd be wild, and they'd sign me right after. And so I had enough to keep me confident. But I had a great family. And I'll get even deeper, which is probably what these people want to hear is, so my mom passed away when I was on the Minnesota Vikings. It was a few days before my wedding, which was crazy.
I remember.
And just a wild time. And actually I got cut a few weeks after that. So I got cut from my dream job, from the Vikings. My mom had recently just passed away, and we were super close, and we just got married. And so I had other problems to really worry about. You know what I mean?
Right.
I had actual problems in life. So playing football, that was just a game. That's not stress. That was fun. And so I had to sort of segment out my life. Here's reality, which is family, wife, life, and then here's my job, which is football. I can segment it out and be super confident here and then be super humble over here, And so that's what I had to do. And I still feel like when I went out and put the helmet on, I played to the best of my ability.
Great answer.
Well
Thank you,
said.
Dr. Ketch, for the question.
Yeah.
So now you got a group of BYU Cougars who they're not going to the NFL, they're going to the Big 12. And this is an area where they've never been before, with the exception of a couple of guys in the portal. And it's a level above. It used to be BYU, and the level was next to the NFL, right? So now it's BYU is now in the Big 12, which is a level up, and then they all want to go where you were going, and where a lot of guys have gone before. How vital is it to be in the Big 12 for these guys who are chasing the same dream as yours?
I can just say I'm jealous, first and foremost.
Really?
To be in a conference, to have that atmosphere, to just be zoned in and focused. Every year I'm in the same conference, not every year I'm an independent. Who the heck are we playing? Let me retake the schedule, you know? So that first and foremost is great. To have a conference championship, an extra game, but to play in and showcase yourself is awesome. And then, if we're talking NFL standpoint, college scouts want to see you play good against good teams. That's it. They couldn't have cared less how I did against Nevada or Utah State even. They couldn't care less.
But they do know what you did against Nebraska.
They do know that. When I was in the Chiefs, everyone knew me as the Hail Mary guy. Actually, everywhere I went, I was the Hail Mary guy. So I didn't get impacted a lot of people, which is cool. A lot of people saw it. But it's a great opportunity for these guys to go out and be tested. And I think this year is going to be a flat-out test. These boys are big. When I played Nebraska, Notre Dame, and Wisconsin, they're all in the same similar part of the country, that North Midwest. Those boys are huge. Yeah. I'm a big dude too. Those guys are huge. So it's a big test physically, and then on a different stage, it's a level up for sure. That's why we're all so excited.
You got to bring it every single week. Is there we all are looking forward to Texas and Oklahoma this year, and BYU has Oklahoma at home, which I think would be a challenge for Oklahoma to come to play at elevation in the stadium. Yeah. They got to go on the road to Texas again. They've been there. With those schools leaving, so let's just exclude them from this question. Are there a couple of programs in the Big 12 that you're going, this is going to be fun to play them every year? This could turn into a natural rivalry with these schools. Yeah.
First one that comes to mind is TCU because I was already there. There's always has been a rivalry, and it's going to come back pretty quick. And they're just dang good. So they are X'd out on the calendar for sure already. I think Texas Tech's going to be a fun one, just with that offense and their history. And then I think BYU is well matched against them with just the huge powerhouse off. We're going to see probably the funnest games we'll see over the next decade if we're still here will be against those guys for sure.
Yeah.
But I mean, just in terms of the baseline is just so much better here. I think Oklahoma State's going to be stout every year, Baylor every year, but I think Texas Tech, TCU, mark those games off. Those are going to be the most fun.
Those will be fun, and maybe become some rivalries.
I like Houston. So I ran into Dana Holgerson, the Houston coach, in the men's room. We're washing our hands at Cowboys Stadium. He just got done with the media on the platform, and I said, "Hey, nice job." And he's like, "Wow, did I say anything controversial?" I go, "Hey, what do we care? We're brand new with you. We're coming in with clean slates.
Right.
You can't tick us off." Yeah. But then we started talking about the relationship between BYU and Houston. I said, it seems to me that if there's a budding rivalry that could come together, it might be these Cougars and Cougars. For one, because the church population in the Houston area is so big that we fill up half their stadium. And we've done it on 2 occasions. And he stopped me right there and he goes, "Absolutely." He goes, "BYU has every reason to be in Houston." He goes, they're not playing this year, but that has an opportunity because it takes a while. It takes usually someone getting ticked off to create a rivalry. And we've learned, as we've been with Cougar Nation and all these stadiums, that nothing agitates fans more than when another fan base takes over their arena.
Right.
And BYU did it twice against Houston.
Yeah.
And so no one traveled to Houston. I mean, there were some, but they're all from that area.
Yeah.
And filled up the place. And I sat there and I thought, that's a vulnerable spot of Houston Cougar fans going, "We're tired of BYU coming in here and taking over our place."
Being louder.
And then something happens and you got a rivalry.
In the old Mountain West and WAC before that, San Diego State was always a big rivalry. And San Diego State was playing in Qualcomm. And it's this huge stadium. And they'd get 30,000 for a game or 28,000 for a game. BYU would come down and play down there. And 55,000 people come to the game.
Isn't that crazy?
And they would kind of take it over. And it created quite a rivalry with San Diego State. And then they both had some great teams. And in basketball, they had some great teams in later years. But, who can forget going down there and watching Marshall Falk go against, Ty Detmer and those.
Hey, we watched it at
BYU
UNLV.
would take their stadium over down there.
UNLV has no reason to be bugged by BYU, right? They had never competed with them. But BYU would come down to their football stadium, and I was a sportscaster down there forever, and they'd fill it up. And that's what created the rivalry. It wasn't the product on the field. It was these fans going, "I am sick and tired of family home evening around me this whole time. I'm the only one drinking a beer. And now I feel bad in my own stadium."
That could apply at Houston.
Yeah.
And to Mitch's point, TCU and Texas Tech are close enough to fairly large populations of former BYU students and alum and LDS folks down there. I think they'll show out well in the state of Texas. Now, TCU does pretty well with attendance, so it's a little harder to get.
The first couple of years, too, a lot of people from all across the country are going to travel to these games.
Sure.
So these first couple of years, the new conference, the excitement's going to be crazy. I think BYU should attach themselves to a specific team. I think it's probably going to be TCU and be known in the conference of that's a big game in our conference.
Yeah.
And that'll elevate our stock just by having a big team like TCU to have that one-on-one every single year.
Yeah. What do you think of this? We're talking about it. You were still sitting over in the green room. We call that the green room.
Yeah.
You were still sitting over in the green room. I'm colorblind, so I'm like, well, we can call it that because it's a green carpet. And they're like, Blaine, that's not green.
It's black and white.
So anyhow, I'm going to call it the green room. We were still in the green room. We were talking about the media poll. The projected BYU to finish 11th out of 14 teams. We were talking about this poll that said less than a 20% chance to get to a bowl game. What are your thoughts on those predictions going into the season?
I don't know if they're looking at some of our best players leaving to the NFL. I don't know exactly what they're looking at, but that's not. Just look at the history of BYU. We don't do that. We're not a 20% odds to make it to a bowl game type team. Just historically, right? The best predictor of the future is the past. That's not who BYU is. And so maybe they think because some of our best players left, just maybe, and it might be sort of rebuilding. I don't think the stat is going to hold up whatsoever. 11th to 14th. I mean, this conference is awesome. It's better than where we came from before. But I mean, I'm just looking at all these logos up here. To me, there's no way, in my opinion, it's less than 500. That's what I believe.
Yeah.
6 and 6.
So his my over under 7. Mitch's is 6. So there you go. Yeah. And 6 would be fine for me this first season. Win 6 games and get to a bowl.
And by the way, that's a base. I think that the 7. I mean, the first 5 games, I think you have a chance to go 5-0.
Yeah, you absolutely do.
And so right there, there's no way you're losing your next 7 games. So
Right.
I think a 7-8 win season is 100% possible. I think there's no way it's below 6 though, in my opinion.
Jonathan from Henderson, Nevada, on the live stream tonight. Thanks, Jonathan. Good to have you with us. Let's do 5 questions and get Mitch out of here. You ready? Now these are not the toughest questions of the night.
You just whatever comes to the top of your head, you just go.
So it's like shotgun, right?
Yeah.
Shotgun.
Rapid fire.
So your favorite sports movie? We keep track of these too, by the way, and compare them to other guests.
Remember the Titans.
And by the way, we judge.
And by the way, that's the number one movie.
Remember the Titans.
Yeah.
But it should be everyone's. That's.
And here's the thing: we don't always have athletes on the show. There's always a little bit of a sports theme, but sometimes we have astronauts or musicians or the governor's been on. And Sherry Dew
I'm
is
gonna
on.
change it then. I'm gonna change it.
What do you mean
then.
you change it?
Happy Gilmore. Happy Gilmore. Put that down right now. Happy Gilmore.
I like.
I'm a huge
Happy
comedy
Gilmore.
guy. Happy Gilmore.
Titans
Adam
is out
Sandler.
just like that.
Yeah.
I have to say, Remember the
I
Titans.
love both.
Remember the Titans has probably been 1, and I would say Rudy has been 2.
Maria Osmonds was Hoosiers.
Yeah, she liked Hoosiers,
Good movie.
but she's
Good
married
movie.
to a basketball player.
Yeah, bias right there.
So, okay, your favorite band or singer? You can be a band or a solo artist.
I'm not a country guy.
You don't need to diss.
Let's go Drake. I love Drake.
I love Drake too.
He's great.
I thought you were gonna go with Beyonce. I don't know why. Just because.
It's going with the Drake.
I like Drake.
I love the Drake.
I have a meeting on August 26th down in Vegas, and Beyonce is playing at Allegiant.
Really?
Yeah, only
I'll join you.
Beyonce and Taylor Swift can sell out NFL stadiums all around the country.
Yeah.
Beyonce sold out
Takes a
SoFi
rare
3
woman.
nights in a row.
Yeah, it takes a rare woman.
Yeah, so there you go. Okay, so it's Drake, which I'm 100% on board with you on
He's
that.
great.
One. Okay, your favorite breakfast cereal?
Fruity Pebbles.
Fruity Pebbles.
With the marshmallows.
With marshmallows.
With the
Next level.
marshmallows.
That goes next level with the marshmallows.
See, and
I get
again,
specific.
we the theme of everybody loves sugar cereal, and we love that, except for Kyle and Marissa. Benoy.
Yeah.
Oh, they were on here?
Oh no,
They do
Kyle
protein
was, they
shakes
only do protein shakes
for their
breakfast.
kids.
Yeah,
And their
that makes
kids.
sense. That
Yeah.
way,
Their
if we're still
kids.
playing ball, I'm saying something a little cleaner too.
Yeah, well, and Danny, when he came on, he does,
Shredded wheat, but his
Shredded
wife
wheat.
makes him do.
but not
Shredded wheat, that ages him too much.
not frosted shredded wheat,
Straight.
plain shredded wheat.
That's
Maybe he's got
Michelle.
like the table sugar.
That's
He's
I was
going
like,
on.
Danny, why don't you just bring a bale of hay and
Yeah,
just take a
that's not-
spoonful of hay?
that's
It's just
not
like,
it.
yeah, it's not it.
So
That's not
we admire Fruity Pebbles.
Yes,
with
we love
marshmallows.
that. We
Yeah,
have
it's
much
great.
respect for Fruity
Yeah.
Pebbles. How about your favorite ice cream?
For sure, cookie dough.
Cookie dough.
There's a crumble cookie right now that's cookie dough. I'm getting it tomorrow night.
We were talking about a recruit that came on campus, and they always tailor the visit to the recruit, and they said to the recruit and his family, "We've got some things on the agenda, but what do you want to do? Like, what's the one thing you want to do that we can't miss?" And they go, "Can we go to the creamery?" And I'm like, if that kid's coming to BYU, don't you think that kid's coming to BYU?
If he's asking those type of questions, those
He's
are buying,
coming
those are
to
buying
BYU.
questions. By the way, at the creamery, the Graham Canyon.
Oh,
The fact that you mentioned that's 1A. Or
Graham
1B.
Canyon.
Graham Canyon's 1B.
There's also my favorite ice cream place ever. I'll be super quick in Portland, Oregon. It's the one that Rock invested in. They have a flavor there called pear and blue cheese. It's literally
What?
pear and blue cheese together. It's insanely good.
You lost me at
that's
pear,
a 2.
and you finished me off at
Blue
blue
cheese.
cheese.
I know. It's not a salad.
You know what?
It's
I'm
an
willing,
ice cream.
I'm willing to try it when I'm in Portland next time. Pear and blue cheese.
The Kate Porter wants to know why Captain Crunch isn't getting any love on this show, but you know,
Cuts the
Kate
roof of your
Porter, it
mouth.
gets plenty of love on this
Captain
show.
Crunch is Dave's favorite,
It cuts the roof of your mouth. That's why.
but he doesn't eat the crunch berries though. He only
I
eats
just-
the
I take
plain
it
old
straight.
Captain Crunch.
Take it straight.
Take it straight. Yeah.
Yeah.
Had it this morning.
Not quite as bad, but
Really?
it will cut your
If you're
mouth.
careful, it doesn't cut up your mouth.
You know,
But if
cut
you
your
hurry
mouth.
into
Get a little
it,
soggy. Yeah.
if you rush into a bowl, you're in trouble.
Yep. So then our last of your 5 is your favorite BYU moment not in the Nebraska game, because we
Come on,
covered
that's
that.
what we say,
Your
yeah.
favorite one
It
not
doesn't,
in
and
the
it doesn't
BYU
have to
in
actually even
Nebraska.
be in football.
Yeah,
Just
it could be
BYU
something
moment.
else to happen at BYU.
First thing that comes to mind is being able to suit up in a uniform with my brother, my only brother, best friend. It's got to be number one. I met my wife there, which is amazing. But speaking of football and on that thread, suiting up with your brother is amazing.
Pretty special.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Was
pretty
that
special.
pre-mission or was it
Post.
after?
It was post. Yeah,
Yeah.
for me, yeah, post.
Very cool.
2012.
2012.
Yep.
When
Mitch,
you're talking to Marcus, do you ever compare, like, does his catch to beat Utah State become more spectacular as he's trying to defend himself against your Hail Mary, or did they just concede?
He has conceded, but this is what he used to have on me is I had some stats on him, but he says one thing you'll never have on me is I was the #1 play on ESPN though, so you don't have that on me, and he had that on me for like 3 years.
It was a Friday night,
right? He did have that on me for three years. Then the Hail Mary at Nebraska came, and I was number one. I was number one for like a year, so a couple months. So I had that on.
I had a number one
That's
play
awesome.
too.
That's awesome.
Were you really?
Yeah,
that's what I'm talking about.
Not when I was
why
playing.
That's why we're so close.
That's why Mitch and I are always tight.
That's
But mine's not when I played. Although I don't know why I didn't get one in the Michigan game playing for the national championship. I had a crazy play where I almost fell down, and Craig Garrick threw me back up, and I rolled out and completed a first down against Michigan. That could have been.
Could have been. Yeah, that's up there.
Like I was almost down on the ground, like I was falling down, and my lineman was on the ground, and he took his arm and smacked me back up on my feet, and we rolled out and completed a first down.
That's
play.
insane.
But that's not the one. The one is, I was calling the Utah BYU game in the Huntsman Center, and Jimmer went off for 33 in the first half, and at halftime, he made a half-court shot and just walked off like it was no big deal. And so sometimes ESPN, like they talk over, other times they just take the call. And this was the #1 play of the game when he did that. And I said, yeah, and look at him. He's just like, yeah, I'm Jimmer Fredette. That's what I do. I make shots. And he just walked off, and that was
kept your voice?
That was the play of the
dynamite.
So we have a #1
We're
play.
connected.
Nice.
It doesn't end.
All my friends
nice.
back home in New York were like, dude, you called the #1 play of the. Yeah. Mm-hmm. It's a great honor.
Legendary.
He made a play. I just talked about it.
Yeah.
I just talked about it.
So Greg Wrubell's also got a #1 for me too.
That's right, because he's got that.
He's attached. Yeah.
That's right.
So
tell us about your business. What do you got going on now?
I own a pest control business right now. It's going great.
And do you have guys all over the country doing that?
Yeah, in the Southeast mainly.
Gotcha. So that's where all the bugs are. I just got back from Texas. All the bugs are
There
down
you
there.
go. I was in Dallas the same time you guys were. I flew down with a bunch of media guys.
Are you
over?
down in your old mission stomping grounds in Orlando with the business?
No.
Not in Florida.
That is in talks though to get down there.
Yeah, of course.
And then I have something coming up that I'm going to launch in the next 6 months. It'll be insane. I can't mention it yet though for other reasons. But
how about
it's
this?
going to be insane.
People have broke some stuff on this show, like, hey, I'm writing a book. Hey, I'm doing this, and we had who was on?
We had our friend, the drummer, Elaine Bradley from Neon Trees.
From Neon Trees came on and said, well, we haven't announced it. My bandmates are going to kill me, but
we're ready to go on tour. We got a new album.
We got a new album coming out. We've been in the studio and we're going on tour.
That's amazing.
Like you're telling people the first time here, so when you're ready to break it, you got to tell us and come on and tell us.
Come back on the show.
It's going to be insane. It'll be one that a lot of Cougar Nation and I will be able to experience. Hint #1. Us three will go do it together. Hint #2.
Oh, wow.
Nice.
It is health and wellness related. Hint #3.
Okay.
It's going to be insane. Hint #4.
Okay.
Wow,
so you call us. We'll talk about it. You come on when you got ready, and we'll talk about it.
Easy. Yeah.
Awesome.
I'm ready.
Awesome.
Right. The great Mitch Mathews. Thanks for being here.
Loved it.
So,
always a blast.
Good to have you here.
Thanks, brother.
Cougar Nation loves
Good to
hearing
see
from you.
Loved
This show's
loved
fun.
your family.
Everyone chimes
Mitch
in
comes
from
from
all
one
over
of
the
the
world.
greatest families ever.
Great
His
family.
mom and dad, everybody. I love your whole family.
Yeah, they're amazing.
So let Marcus know that we still admire his touchdown.
I'm
to
gonna
beat the
send him
Aggies.
this for sure.
Yeah.
So
And our podcast will be up tomorrow. Send it to you. You can send it to your friends. Okay, the great Mitch Mathews. You're good. You're out. Thank you
Thanks,
much
Mitch.
for coming.
Thanks, boys.
Great to see you, brother.
Beat Nebraska and has done so much more at BYU and life. Represents the Y in phenomenal ways, and our friend always has been. And we'll see you in 6 months. 6 months to announce his big project.